art critic Hettie Judah. We just heard at the end of that report there that she was one of the pioneers of modern art, and yet how influential was she when she kept so much of it secret?
Well, obviously nobody saw her major abstract works until the 1980s, the late 1980s. And it's really only now that we're starting to see her work shown on a large scale. There was a very significant exhibition of her work in Sweden, which I believe has travelled around the Scandinavian countries. And now we've got this big show at the Serpentine in London. So really her impact is still to be seen.
The earliest artist to be shown at the Serpentine, she died in 1944. So they're really treating her as a modern artist. Why is that?
They're treating her as a contemporary artist, I guess, because she's in many ways a fresh voice, even though she was born in the 19th century. And also her work looks strikingly contemporary. If we look at her work besides other contemporary painters, we can see this exploration of spirituality, a lack of hierarchy between figuration and abstract work, the use of a particular, a personal kind of cosmology, we could say, and all kinds of concerns that really are interesting to contemporary artists.
It's enticing to sort of think how she might have been viewed, what she might have done had her work been seen sooner. And yet, as a woman living in the 19th century, would she have been ignored or championed, do you think?
Well, I think there was this general view that while it was fine for women to attend art academies, as Hilma Klint did, and to be educated in the technical aspects of painting and art, they were generally seen as copyists, as artists of the domestic, of the landscape, of the natural world. Hilma Klint did work professionally as an artist. She worked as she did technical veterinary pictures. She also worked as a landscapist and as a portrait artist. But the idea that somebody would come up with an important innovation in the art world, a woman would come up with this important innovation, seemed quite alien to the thinking of the time.
There was fascination, wasn't there, at the time with the unseen, lots of scientific discoveries being made, including the first X-rays, people being able to see inside bodies in a way that they hadn't before. How much of an influence was this on her work?
Well, she was certainly very interested in all kinds of aspects of the unseen world, whether that's aspects that we'd now consider less scientific. So she was a great adherent of the seances. She, I think from 1880, shortly after the death of her sister, she held seances on quite a regular basis. But she was also interested in a movement which was called Theosophy, which helped to reconcile the scientific advances of the time with some kind of spirituality, with some kind of religion. And so she was very influenced by this indeed, yes.
Let's take a look at some of her work now. There are some absolutely huge pieces, aren't there? When you go to the gallery, they're called, in fact, the largest.
The 10 largest,
the 10
yes,
largest.
Exactly.
Oh, actually, I think we're seeing something different here. What's this one that we're seeing?
These are one of the final works that she did in her major series, which are the paintings for the temple. And this is one of the 3 final works she did in that series. And this is one of the altarpieces. So it's quite complicated to explain some of the thoughts that went behind this series of over 190 works. But this is essentially showing the energy of the world going up into the heavens and the energy of the heavens coming down into the world.
As you say, very spiritual. What do we know about her state of mind? Because this seems quite perhaps odd to us today. She believed, didn't she, that in some way spirits were working through her when she held these seances?
Yes, well, so when she was with a group of 4 other women, one of whom was known to be an artist, and she regularly held seances with them, and they practiced automatic writing and automatic drawing, and they felt that they were receiving messages directly from higher powers. And it was one of these higher powers that in 1904 commissioned her, essentially, to create this very large body of works, which essentially she kept pretty much private right up until her death, which ended up being the 193 paintings-strong Paintings for the Temple series. And within this, she worked within groups that explained various different aspects of this spirituality that was explained to her, brought to her by the higher beings that they contacted in the seances.
Let's talk now about those 10 largest images, because you were saying that in the gallery they're just sort of overwhelming, aren't they? They're
absolutely stunning. They're within the central space of the Serpentine Gallery, and in fact they're so large that they've only brought 8 of the 10 over to the exhibition. They're pretty much floor-to-ceiling works, and they have, to a contemporary eye, a very psychedelic aspect. They've got these really hot colours going through them. and they describe various points in the development of a person. So they go from childhood through maturity, through adulthood to old age.
She was friendly with Rudolf Steiner, the famous theosophist. He said she was ahead of her time. The world wasn't ready for her yet. Do you think there was truth in that?
As I mentioned, her work does look very, very contemporary, and you can see that perhaps people weren't ready, certainly during the Second World War, which I guess is, she died towards the end of the Second World War. This body of work would have seemed very alien at that point, and we are quite ready for them now. She seems to be getting an extremely rapturous reception. People are very excited by her work now.
Indeed. Well, it's on at the Serpentine right now for all to see. For now, thank you, Hettie Judah.